Just imagine that you're living your life carrying a backpack on your back. At first it's light, you hardly notice it's there, but day by day you're adding things to it. A failure here, a heartbreak there, lost chance, a hurt memory, an unspoken regret, an unforgiving betrayal, and soon that backpack isn't so light anymore. It's heavy, making every step more labored than it has to be. Some of you walked in this room this morning carrying a lifetime of that burden, and you've become so accustomed to it that you don't even notice how much it's holding you back. You've talked yourself into believing that it's just who you are. This burden is a part of you. This heaviness is here forever. Well, I'm here to tell you something great. It's not. You're not your past. You're not your hurt. You're not the mistakes that you've made, the people who left, the chances that you think you lost out on. The fact is that the reason that burden still has a hold on you is that you keep carrying it around. First step in moving on and leveling up in life is the acknowledgement of the burden you've been carrying around. Not ignoring it, not pretending it's not there, but seeing it honestly. Because you can only release something that you insist on owning as yours. Too many people overlook this step. They want to skip this step and go directly to positive thinking, directly to vision boards and affirmations, directly to running towards the next big thing. But if you construct the next chapter of your existence on top of unacknowledged hurt, no matter what you do on top, will always drip through. It will undermine your relationships. It will whisper doubts in your momentum. It will keep you playing small when you sincerely came here to play big. I need to ask you a tough question. What are you carrying around that's been silently stealing your energy? It could be a business that flopped, and on some level you don't want to risk trying again. Could be a relationship that wiped you out, and you've convinced yourself that you're not capable of being deeply loved. It could be the remorse of knowing you've settled, knowing that you deserve more, but haven't held yourself responsible for more. It doesn't matter what it is. When you do hold yourself responsible for it, you rob it of its fuel to use against you. It changes from being an unconscious burden to a conscious choice. And when something's a choice, you get to decide if you want to carry it around or release it. If you had a big rock in your hand and someone told you, why don't you just put it down? You'd laugh. Of course you'd put it down. Why would you be holding it otherwise? We grab on so tight when we're carrying around emotional baggage that it becomes part of who we are. We confuse the story of what happened around us with the story of who we are as individuals. They're not the same. That which happened around you is an event. You as an individual are a decision. And until you realize that, keep bringing stale stories as you enter new eras of your life and ask why things don't change. Being in recognition of the heaviness isn't being accusatory towards other people or drowning in self-pity. Being in your truth and saying, this has been weighing on me and I'm done carrying it. It's giving yourself permission to be free. You can't reclaim what you don't give yourself permission to feel. You can't grow if you're held back on where you've been. The moment that you actually do say, yes, this has been weighing on me, you free up space for a much larger question. What could I do? Could I become? How far could I rise if I no longer had to carry this? That's the door to greatness. And it begins with recognizing. So today, as we're sitting here now, I want you to begin by merely acknowledging it. Tell yourself, I know what's been holding me back, and I'm ready to be real here. Because here's the truth. Backpack you've been carrying around with you, no part of that belongs on you. It's not fused on you. You can unzip it, remove the rocks from it, set it down. And when you do that, you will feel lighter, freer, stronger than you ever dreamed possible. And only then can you commence truly on the journey of moving on and leveling up when you've truly acknowledged the burden that you've been carrying. Next, you need to do one of the truly liberating, yet hardest things you'll ever do. You need to let it go. And let me be precise here. Letting go doesn't mean that you're trying to forget what occurred to you, that you're trying to pretend that it didn't do anything to you. It means that you make a commitment that the past will no longer determine your future. Because if you don't let go of that, which no longer serves you, then you will never yet have space in order to create a life that you deserve. Think of your mind and your heart as a container. Only so much capacity in there. If it's filled with resentment, regret, anger, and limiting beliefs, there's no room left for joy, creativity, love, or possibility. It's why so many people feel stuck, not because they lack potential, but because they've filled themselves with the wrong things. They're holding on to toxic people because they fear being alone. They're clinging to old beliefs like, I'm not enough, I'll always fail, I can't change, as if those words are carved into stone. They replay past mistakes like a movie on loop, convincing themselves that what once happened has to keep happening. But here's the truth: you can choose to let all of that go. And the moment you do, you reclaim your power. Letting go requires an act of conscious courage. It means that you no longer wait around for an apology that might not arrive. It means that you no longer wait around for closure where people lacked the power to provide it. It means that you no longer invest yourself in fights that no longer deserve you. It's looking in the mirror and saying, yes, I was hurt, but I'm not broken. Yes, I fell, but I will get back up. Yes, I made mistakes. They do not qualify me as a being. And then you get to choose releasing the hold that the past has had on you. Because the truth is that every time that you replay that hurt story or that limiting story, choosing to carry it around once more. And every time that you get to release it, you get to choose freedom. I've met people who spent decades angry at their parents, angry at their ex, angry at life itself. When they finally let it go, when they finally released that emotional poison, you could see the transformation instantly. Their posture changed, their energy shifted, their face lit up as if 1,000 pounds had been lifted from their chest. Because letting go doesn't just free your mind, it frees your entire being. It restores your capacity to feel alive again. Ask yourself this very instant, what do you still carry around that doesn't belong in the future that you want? Is it a relationship that was over years ago, yet still pays rent, in your mind rent, free? Is it the hurt of not being acknowledged the way that you felt that you should have been? Is it that because you failed once, you will do so once more? Whatever it may be, I want you to make yourself conscious that it's taking more out of you than you might realize. It's taking your peace. It's taking your focus. It's taking you away from the life that you're here for. Letting go doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you give in. It doesn't make what happened okay. It means you're tough enough that you get to reclaim your power. It means you're not going to let yesterday dictate the script for tomorrow. It means you're not going to make room for something better to come into your life, new relationships, new doors that get open for you, joy, new success. And when you do it, when you do release your clenched fist and let go of what you've been holding on to, you're going to find that it was never about what you lost, but always what you're going to get back. So I call on you, make the choice today to release yourself. Not next week when it feels like the right conditions, not when it feels more convenient, today. Because the sooner you release the burden, the sooner you can emerge. Greatness that belongs to you is on the other side of the door, but it can't enter a space where you're still holding on to the past. Put it down, release it, and walk boldly towards the life that is calling on you. Here's the truth. Once you've realized the burden you've been carrying around and you've made the brave choice to release yourself from it, the next step is to shift your identity from that victimized one in the past toward being the architect of your future. And that transition is everything. Because as long as you still perceive yourself as the victim of your experience, you surrender your power. You give away the pen that writes your story to someone else, your boss, your parents, your past, failures, even chance. But when you walk around in the consciousness of a creator, suddenly you reclaim that pen. You begin to get that life is not happening by accident. This is happening for you. Every wound becomes an invitation for your own strength. That every setback becomes a stepping stone towards something greater than yourself. Every single day becomes a new chance for crafting the kind of existence that you actually desire. But I don't come here pretending that you haven't been hurt. You've been hurt terribly. You've lost things no one ought to ever lose. You've had doors shut in your faces, hopes dropped around you. It's a tough reality. Living in the victim identity doesn't heal you, it only holds you back more. When you recite your story ad infinitum about how unfair life was, or people let you down, or everything went wrong, what you're actually doing with that is repeat your hurt instead of redesign your future. You see, there's a subtle but powerful shift in language that changes everything. Victims say, "This happened to me." Creators say, "This happened for me." Do you feel the difference? The first keeps you trapped. waiting for life to get better, waiting for someone to save you, waiting for circumstances to align. The second puts you back in control. It says, yes, this was hard. Yes, I didn't choose it. I choose what it means. I choose how I use it. I choose what I build from it. That's the difference between people who stay stuck and people who rise. Think of some of the finest human beings that ever populated the earth: leaders, inventors, survivors. Not one had a reason to stay a victim. Not one could have said, isn't fair, and yet they opted for something else. They made pain a purpose, obstacles an opportunity, wounds a wisdom. They wrote the book on their own future, and that's the option that's before you today. How do you make that transition? It begins with ownership. Own your life, not the good stuff that went down, but everything that doesn't necessarily mean blame yourself for everything. It means own your response. You can't dictate the wind, but you can set the sail. You can't dictate people's behavior or words, but you can dictate what you allow yourself to focus on. Perceive yourself as being an action you take every day. The moment that you own up fully, you cease being a victim of your past and you begin being the designer of your future. I want you to truly envision this. If you were no longer waiting for things to get better in your life, instead you were committing to make the life you desired, a better life. The life that you desired, a better one. What would that be? How would you be showing up? Whom would you be surrounded by? You be living. That vision, a possibility, is in you. It just needs you to step yourself into it. Keep in mind that life doesn't pay back excuses, but pays back responsibility. Doesn't make doors open up for people who wait, but makes doors open up for people who knock on doors. And when you do utter the words once, I'm no longer a victim of my story, the writer of it, things shift. Your energy shifts, your confidence shifts, your relationships shift, your future shifts. So I invite you to make that transition now. No more complaining. Why did this happen to me? Ask yourself instead, how can I use this to grow, rise, serve, build, create? That one question makes you shift from powerless to powerful. One question bridges the past for you toward the greatness that belongs to you. When you've made that shift out of being the victim versus the creator, the next step that's absolutely mandatory for you is this: you need to raise the bar, because let's get real, the life that you live now is a direct reflection of the standards that you've been willing to accept. If your standard is just enough to get by, that's just what you'll get. If your standard is that you'll accept toxic relationships, you'll keep pulling them toward you. If your standard is living in fear or playing small, that's what your reality will show up as. Soon as you raise that standard, the moment that you say what you will no longer accept and what you absolutely insist on from yourself, that's when things change. Your standards are like the thermostat of your life. Imagine a room set to 70 degrees. If the temperature drops, the thermostat kicks in and brings it back up. If the temperature rises, the thermostat cools it down. No matter what's happening around it, it always regulates to that set standard. The same is true for your life. You will always find a way to return to the standard you've set for yourself. If your standard is health and vitality, you'll find a way to get back on track when you slip. If your standard is financial freedom, push yourself to rise even when circumstances are tough. But if your standard is mediocrity, if it's settling, if it's comfort, that's the level you'll unconsciously regulate yourself to, no matter how many opportunities come your way. Now here's the catch. Defining your standards isn't saying, I want more. We all want more. More money, more love, more success, more freedom. And wanting doesn't do a darn thing for you. You get your musts, not your shoulds. Should means maybe someday I'll get around to it. It means heaven and earth will be moved to make this happen. You say, I should lose weight. I should make more money. I should start that business. You're lying to yourself. Shoulds weak, musts strong. When something becomes a must, you'll do heaven and earth to make it happen. Ask yourself this. There are things in your life now where you will not settle no matter what. It could be the way you treat your kids. It could be the level of honesty you need in relationships. It could be the level of job ethic you bring to your job. Those are standards, not inclinations. That's why they make your reality. So ask yourself, where in your life were you accepting less than you deserve? Maybe you've been accepting a job that doesn't get you that excited because your standard is just security. Maybe you've been accepting that your health could use improving because your standard is, I'll do it when it's convenient. Maybe you've been living surrounded by that draining energy out of you instead of people that get you pumped up because your standard is better than being alone. In any case, you can select that as of today it ends. You can select that your new standard is passion, energy, greatness, authenticity, empowerment, because when you raise your standards, you change your destiny. Let me tell you something, the world reflects back people who insist on more out of themselves. Doors that were once closed spring open for the one who insists on greatness from their own efforts. Relationships get better when you will not settle on deceit or lukewarm affection. Your job changes when you will no longer settle on average efforts by yourself or anyone around you. It doesn't provide what you desire. It provides what you insist upon by your standards. The great news is that raising your standards doesn't require anyone else's approval. You don't need to wait for the economy or your family, or your boss, or your lover. It's something that you do on the inside. You tell yourself, this is who I am now. This is the standard I apply. That's what I expect of me. I will accept nothing other than that. When that decision happens, then your behavior just naturally rises up to meet it. So here's your job. Pick one area in your life now, your health, your finances, your relationships, your career, and raise the bar. Write it down on a piece of paper. Say it out loud. Commit that as of this moment, you're no longer a consideration for the mediocre. You're no longer a consideration for just enough. You're no longer a consideration for anything that's anything less than the greatness that you so rightly deserve. If you make that complete commitment to that new standard, pay attention just how quickly your life begins leveling up. Now that you've established a new standard by committing that you will no longer settle for anything less than you so rightly deserve, here's something that will help you actually live on that new level, and that's the power of focus. Here's why that on whatever you focus on over the long term, that's what you move towards, that's what you create. That's what you ultimately experience in your own life. Where focus goes, energy flows. Think about it. Two people can go through the exact same event and come out with completely different stories, completely different emotions, and completely different destinies, all because of what they chose to focus on. One person loses a job and focuses on rejection, failure, and fear, spiraling into paralysis. Person loses a job and focuses on opportunity, growth, and reinvention, stepping into the next chapter with fire in their belly. Same event, different focus, different future. Powerful your focus is. The problem is men and women are careless with their focus. They worry about what's broken more than what can be. They ruminate on problems more than solutions. They focus on things they can't do anything about, the thoughts other people might be thinking, what that news broadcast might say tomorrow, went wrong yesterday, instead of things they can do something about now, this instant. And they get frustrated, fearful, or overwhelmed as a consequence, because they're battling an unjust planet, but because their focus is battling against them. This is the truth. Your mind is a magnifying glass. That on which you focus enlarges. Do you focus on fear? Expands. Do you focus on appreciation? Appreciation expands. Do you focus on lack? Lack expands. Do you focus on possibility? Possibility expands. Choosing your focus is one of the strongest things that you can do on a regular basis. So how do you harness that power? First, you've got to discipline your mind. Left on autopilot, your focus will always drift toward problems because your brain is wired for survival, not happiness. That's why you can hear 10 compliments in a day and 1 criticism. And what do you think about at night? Criticism. But you're not here to just survive. You're here to thrive. That means you've got to take back control of your focus. Start training your mind to look for what's strong instead of what's wrong, to seek out possibilities instead of limitations, to notice what's working instead of obsessing over what isn't. Second, you need to determine what your outcome is before you do anything. People walk into things without knowing what they want, so their attention gets diverted by distractions, by the negative, by other people's agendas. If you do know your outcome, then your attention has a place to go. You're not just reacting, you're directing things. Third, place yourself in the presence of individuals and surroundings that focus you rather than diffuse you. Spend time with complainers. What will you focus on? Complaints. Spend time with problem solvers and futurists. What will you focus on? Potentiality. You feed your focus with your environment, and your focus determines your future. Take a deep breath and say this one thing to yourself. What have I been thinking about lately? I've been dwelling on things I don't want, things I'm afraid of, things I'm frustrated with, or things I do want to create, people I want to become, things I can do here now. Be honest. Your attention has a compass like effect on you, and a compass will keep steering you towards that life that you're creating, whether you want it to or not. Here's the most liberating thing. Your attention is a decision. Nobody can dictate it but you. Others can attempt to manipulate you. Situations can provoke you. The world can throw you a curveball. When push comes to shove, you get to say where you put that attention. That choice means the difference between living in fear or living by faith, living in scarcity or living in plenty, living in pain or living in potential. So make the commitment today to focus your attention with purpose. Get up every morning and say, what's something I can be thankful for now? Something I can create today. One step toward the vision I want. Do that every day, and you will find that your life expands in ways you could hardly dare hope for, because you've put the one thing that actually determines your experience back in your own hands, your focus. Here's something I just know for sure. You will experience pain in your life, not once, a million times. But every single one of us has had moments that hurt us, moments that cracked us open, moments we thought we could not live through. Here's the difference between people who stay stuck and people who rise. Some people let pain set the terms for who they become, but other people choose to use it as a fuel source. That decision only, will keep you stuck in your history or walk yourself out toward the greatness that belongs to you. Suffering can be your prison or your power. It can immobilize you with bitterness, regret, fear, or it can fuel you with hunger, drive, and unstoppable resilience. And here's the reality. You don't get a free pass on pain, but you do get to say what this pain means. If you say to yourself, this hurt means I'm broken, this hurt means I'm untrustworthy, this hurt means I'm a failure, then you'll live small, afraid, limited by an injury that refuses to stay closed. But if you say to yourself, this hurt exists to help me learn, to mold me, strengthen me, refine me, then that very thing you once believed was going to crush you becomes that which sets you free. Think about people who've had extraordinary success in life, business, art, sport, or philanthropy. Almost all of them will have a tale of woe behind the tale of success. Oprah was abused as a child in ways that we can hardly imagine, yet she drew on that suffering as a way to connect with millions of people and make a difference in people's lives. Mandela was imprisoned for 27 years, yet instead of letting bitterness consume him, he turned that suffering into a global cause for freedom and forgiveness. Even in your own experience, if you could go back in retrospect, some of your greatest development didn't emerge in the good times. It emerged in the moments that hurt the most. So the question is not, so will you suffer? The question is, what will you do with it? You can just keep saying, why me? Or you can begin saying, what can this do for me? That's the difference. Because when you choose to make pain fuel, you no longer run away from it. You begin to run towards it. You take the energy of broken hearts, broken dreams, broken losses. You put that energy towards creating something more. Here's the reality: pain is energy. And energy is neither positive nor negative until you give it direction. You can invest that energy in rage, vengeance, self-destruction, or invest that energy in development, self-discipline, creation. If you've been rejected, invest that hurt energy in fueling the development of yourself so profoundly that everyone can't help but perceive your value. If you've been betrayed by hurt, invest that hurt energy in fueling your ability to love more deeply, but with boundaries and intelligence. If you failed, invest that hurt energy in fueling your hunger to learn, adapt, come back stronger. You and I both know people who let hurt consume them. They gave up, they lost themselves, they settled. We both also know people who rose up out of ashes, people who made something out of heartbreak that couldn't be shaken. The difference between these two groups isn't luck, isn't talent, isn't circumstance. It's that they chose fuel over cage when it came to pain. Let me ask you what pain in your life is sitting inside of you right now, waiting to be transformed into power. What story are you holding on to that could become your testimony of strength? Wound could become the very source of your hunger to rise. Because here's what I promise you: when you finally decide to use your pain, you'll discover energy inside you that you never knew existed. find a fire that keeps you going long after motivation fades. You'll find resilience that no obstacle can break. Your pain doesn't make you disqualified for greatness. It prepares you for it. The very experience you thought was the end of your story could be the beginning of your turnaround. So don't waste your pain. Don't bury your pain. Don't mute your pain. Use it as fuel. Watch how it propels you towards the life you were made to live. As soon as you've taken that pain and made fuel out of it, tapped a reservoir of energy that can propel you farther than you ever thought you could go. Here's the issue. Fuel on its own just doesn't do it. You can have the fire, the hunger, the drive. If you don't focus it on a regular basis, you burn out. That brings up the next step, creating unstoppable habits. Success doesn't get constructed on what you do once in a while. The success that we're after here is constructed on what you do every day just as much as when no one's watching. Habits are the hidden architecture that underlies your life. They create your health, your wealth, your mind, set your relationships, your future. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. Anyone can get pumped up in a moment of enthusiasm, but enthusiasm wears off. Motivation wears off. Even hurt eventually loses its edge. What keeps showing up day after day? What keeps you growing and leveling up? The rituals you stick to every day. Think about it this way. If you go to the gym once and grind like a madman, you will feel excellent for a day, but will not transform your body. You have a healthy meal once. You will not alter your health. You read for an hour. You will not rewire your mind. You do these things day in, day out. If they become a part of the fabric of your day-to-day living, the compounding effect becomes permanent. Now, it doesn't matter if you're disciplined or not, just becomes a part of who you are. This is the truth that nobody wants to listen to. You don't reach your goals, you reach your standards, and your standards are maintained by your habits. You want to make more money. What are your fiscal habits? You want a health revolution. What are your nutrition habits on a day in and day out basis? You want more intimacy with the people in relationships. What are your habits around connecting and communication? You don't get success by being intense. You get success by being consistent. Now, I know the word habit can sound boring to some people. They want excitement, novelty, variety. But let me tell you something. Discipline creates freedom. The people who appear to live the most exciting lives are often the ones who have mastered the simplest, boring habits behind the scenes. The athlete who looks like a natural-born champion has put in thousands of hours of training. Entrepreneur who looks like an overnight success has built daily habits of focus and execution for years. Habits are the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. The good news is, need to revamp everything simultaneously. In fact, trying to do that only ensures burnout. Instead, pick one habit that will make the biggest difference and make that stick. Start small, be consistent, let momentum build up. It could be a morning routine that centers you before the day's craziness begins. It could be promising to read for 20 minutes a day so that you can strengthen your mind. It could be reaching out to a person a day so you can grow your network. Over a series of moments, small steps add up to spectacular results. Don't forget this. Habits are just as much what you don't do as what you do. What distractions, put-offs, or self-saboteurs can you break free from? All habits you carry get you closer to your vision or away from your vision. Be ruthless in designing the ones that help you and removing the ones that deplete you in order to truly level up. Make your habits non-negotiables. Not when I feel like it, not when I get around to it, not when it's easy. They become who you are. You don't give a moment's consideration to flossing your teeth. You do it without a thought. Visualize you're working on your body, your mind, your mission as that automatic. That's when you become unstoppable. So here's your challenge. Choose one habit now that will change your trajectory if you do it every day. Commit on that one, own that one. And then when that becomes a part of you, choose a second one. A third one on top of that until your life becomes infused with habits that will drive you forward almost without conscious decision. Because greatness isn't made in long strides. It's made in small, persistent steps that you do every day. Maybe you've been hurt. Maybe that hurt has created fuel out of a deep sense of pain that you've channeled, and now you've tapped into an energy that can drive you further than you ever thought you could go. Catch. Fuel on its own will not do it. You've got the fire in you, the hunger in you, the drive in you, but if you don't focus that power consistently, you burn out. why the next step after this one is creating unstoppable habits. Because success isn't created on what you do once every great while. It's created on what you do every day of the week, regardless of if anyone's watching. Habits are the invisible architecture of your life. They shape your health, your wealth, your mindset, your relationships, your future. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. Can get excited in a moment of inspiration, but inspiration fades. Motivation fades. Even pain eventually loses its sting. What keeps you moving forward? What keeps you growing and leveling up? Rituals you commit to daily. Think of it this way: if you go to the gym once and exercise like a lunatic, you will feel great for a day, but it will not change your body. If you eat a healthy meal once, will not alter your health. If you read for 1 hour once, it will not rewire your mind. If you do these things on a regular basis, if you make them a part of the fabric of how you live your day, the compounding effect will be irreversible. Now, it doesn't matter about discipline anymore, just becomes who you are. Here's the truth that nobody's eager to hear: you don't reach your goals. You reach your standards, and by what standards do you hold yourself? Your habits do. Do you want to raise in pay? What's your money habit? Do you want a health revolution? Then what's your nutrition habit every day? And what's your physical activity habit? Do you want more relationships? Then what's your connection habit? What's your communication habit? You don't reach success by being intense. You reach success by being consistent. Now, I admit that the word habit might get a lot of people groaning. They crave thrill, crave novelty, they crave variety. But here's the thing: discipline gives you freedom. People who seem to live the most glamorous lives are the ones who've become experts at the dullest habits in the background. The athlete who seems like a natural champion has spent thousands of hours training. Business owner who seems like an overnight success has spent years developing day in, day out habits of concentration and execution. Habit is the connection between where you are now and where you want to be. Good news is you don't need to overhaul everything all at once. In fact, that kind of wholesale transformation tends to cause burnout. So choose 1 or 2 habits that will make the greatest difference. Make it stick. Keep things small at first. Be consistent and allow momentum to gather steam. It might be a morning routine that grounds you before the day descends into madness. Be a promise to yourself to read for 20 minutes a day in order to keep your mind keen. It might be a call or email reaching out to 1 person a day in order to deepen your network. Over the months and years, these small efforts compound into remarkable outcomes. And remember this: habits are what we do as much as what we refrain from doing. What patterns of distractions, delaying maneuvers, self-sabotage do you need to get a break from? Every habit you live by brings you closer towards your vision or away from it. Ruthless in designing the ones that benefit you and offloading the ones depleting you. In order to actually level up, make your habits airtight. When I feel like it, not when I've got time, not when it's convenient. You just do them as part of who you are. You don't reason with brushing your teeth, you just do it. Picture working on your body, working on your mind, working on your mission as automatic as that. That's when you become unstoppable. So here's your challenge: make a choice. Now that will change your trajectory if you do it every day. Commit on it, own it. And then once that becomes a part of you, put on top of that one another one. Put layer upon layer upon layer until your being becomes empowered by unstoppable habits that lift you up almost without resistance. Greatness is not created by leaps and bounds. It's created by the small repetitive steps that you make on a daily basis. Now that you've taken your hurt and channeled it as fuel, you've tapped a source of energy that can take you farther than you ever dreamed you could. Here's the catch: fuel by itself doesn't do much for you. You can have the fire, the hunger, the drive. If you don't put it on a consistent basis, you burn out. That's why step number 2 here is creating unstoppable habits. Because success doesn't get built on what you do on occasion. It becomes built on what you do every day around no one watching. Habits are the invisible architecture of your life. They shape your health, your wealth, your mindset, your relationships, your future. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. Anyone can get excited in a moment of inspiration. Inspiration fades. Motivation fades. Even pain eventually loses its sting. What keeps you moving forward, what keeps you growing and leveling up, are the rituals you commit to daily. Think about this way: If you hit the gym once and push yourself like a nut, you may feel fantastic for a day, but it's not going to change your body. You have one healthy meal. It's not going to change your health. You read for 1 hour. It's not going to rewire your mind. But if you do this day after day, if it becomes a part of the fabric of the day, the compounding effect can't be reversed. Now, it's not that you're disciplined. It's just that that's who you are. The reality no one wants to hear: you don't achieve your goals. You achieve your standards. Your standards are accountable by your habits. So if you need to raise your income habits. Do you need to improve your health? What are your day in, day out nutritional habits? Do you need more relationships? What are your connection and communication habits? You don't achieve success by being fervent. You achieve success by being consistent. Now, I admit that the word habit might not be that exciting for everyone. They crave excitement, something new. Here's something: discipline leads to freedom. The individuals who seem to have the most eventful lives are frequently the ones who've perfected the dullest, easiest habits in secret. The athlete who seems like a natural talent has trained thousands of times. The business owner who seemed like an overnight sensation has had years' worth of daily habits of concentration and execution. Form the link between where you currently live and where you wish you could live. The great news is you don't need to overhaul everything immediately. In fact, that almost always ends in burnout. Instead, single habit or two that will make the greatest difference and make it stick. Beginning small, be consistent, and allow momentum to grow. Be a morning routine that grounds you before the day descends into chaos. It might be a commitment to read for 20 minutes a day in order to hone the mind. Be calling a single contact a day in order to deepen your network. Those small things over a passage of time compound towards remarkable gains. Keep this in mind. Habits aren't only what you do, but also what you don't do. What distractions, put-offs, or self-sabotages do you need to break free from? You have a habit for every action that brings you closer to your vision or pushes you further away. Be brutal when crafting the ones that benefit you and erasing the ones that deplete you. In order to actually level up, make your habits concrete, not when I feel like it, not when I get around to it, not when it's easy. They become habitual as a part of who you are. You don't hesitate when you brush your teeth, you just do it. See yourself working on your body, on your mind, on your mission being that habitual. That's what makes you unstoppable. So here's your task. Select one habit now that will put you on a different trajectory. If you do it once a day, commit on own it. And then once that becomes a part of you, do something else. Layer after layer until your being becomes full of habits that raise you up without much effort. Greatness doesn't get constructed in great big steps. It's constructed in the small, consistent steps that you do day after day. ChatGPT replied, "You've accepted the weight by now. You've let it go. You've chosen to become a creator. You've upped your standards. You've owned the focus. You've turned pain into fuel, and you've started developing unstoppable habits." Yet there's a reality that you can't help but shy away from if you want to keep leveling up. True change only manifests when you get into a space of discomfort. We live in a world obsessed with comfort. Everything we do these days exists in order to make life that much easier, that much quicker, that much more convenient. And don't mishear me, comfort has its role. Comfort zones just don't thrive in comfort zones. Growth happens on the far side of comfort. Strength happens on the far side of comfort. It's the life you desire that doesn't live that safe, predictable, comfortable bubble you've built around yourself. It's on the far side of fear, uncertainty, and challenge. Think back. When you first started walking as a toddler, it was not comfortable. You tripped. You fell. You hurt yourself. You held on, however, and now you don't bat an eyelash at walking. It just comes naturally. When you first started riding a bicycle, when you first spoke in front of a group of people, when you first took that great leap in life, nothing was a sure thing at first. It was strange, intimidating, a nuisance, and the discomfort was proof that you were reaching. The same holds true with every aspect of your life now. To get a stronger body, you've got to challenge your muscles up to the limit of resistance. To get a sharper mind, you've got to read more, learn more, push beyond what you currently comprehend. To get deeper relationships, you've got to engage in vulnerable discussion that might make you feel uneasy, yet brings intimacy and credibility. To to get more success in business or career, you've got to put yourself in a position that requires risk, taking bold action, and stepping in where the success is not guaranteed. Most humans live their entire lives fleeing discomfort, so they live their entire lives fleeing their own development. They pick the comfort of safety over the truth of potentiality. They believe that they will avoid pain by sidestepping it, when in fact they just avoid progress. The individuals that rise, the individuals that make greatness a reality in their own lives, these individuals live by leaning forward into discomfort and saying, "This is frightening, but that's why I need to do this." The reality, fear is a compass. When it makes you exhilarated and scared at the same time, it means that you're on the correct path. Discomfort doesn't make you pull over. It means that you're pushing a notch up. And the more that you accept it, stronger, bolder, and more resilient you get. So let me ask you, what have you been avoiding because it feels uncomfortable? Maybe it's starting that business you've dreamed about. Maybe it's having that tough conversation you've been putting off. Maybe it's getting in the gym, writing that book, applying for that job, speaking your truth, leaving the relationship that no longer serves you. Whatever it is, you already know deep down that the discomfort is the doorway to your next level. Here's the empowering part. Discomfort is temporary. Growth it creates lasts forever. That conversation might make your heart race for 5 minutes, but it could change the course of your relationship for a lifetime. Risk might feel terrifying for a season, but it could open doors that change your destiny. The pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of regret weighs tons. You get to decide which one you're going to carry. So as of now, I dare you to rethink discomfort. No longer do you want it as far away as possible. You want it as close as possible as evidence that you're on the trajectory of ascension. When your belly flips, when your hands sweat, when your mind says you should step back, that's the sign that you're increasing in level. That's when you need to get closer, not get away. Because greatness doesn't result from that which is simple. Results from that which has been earned. And once you make discomfort your friend rather than foe, there will be no end to who you will be and what you will do. Yet you can do all your inner work, up your standards, focus your attention, make pain your power source. Accept discomfort too. But here's a truth that everyone underestimates. The people you surround yourself with will make your progress speed up or slow down. Since people are elevators, they lift you up or they ground you down. And if your aspiration is to get over and rise up a level, then you must be surrounded by elevators, not anchors. Take a moment to reflect on the 5 people you surround yourself with the most. Unbeknownst to yourself, you've absorbed their attitudes, their habits, their energy, their expectations. Should they complain constantly, you will complain. Should they play small, you will do so unconsciously in order to be a part of the group. Should they be negative, fearful, bitter, vibration exists within you if you like it or not. Be ye if you surround yourself with people who big dream, people who challenge you, people who accept no less than their absolute best. People who see possibilities where others clutch limiting. Their energy can't help but lift yours. Proximity is power. It's like being on a ship. Anchors will keep you steadfast in one place. You won't drown perhaps, but you're not getting anywhere either. Elevators, on the other hand, are like sails. They seize the wind of fortune and push you ahead more than you could ever manage by yourself. So ask yourself this: are the people around you anchors or elevators? Do they pull you back towards the mundane or lift you towards your highest potential? This is the tough truth. More than likely, the people you wish the greatest for will be the people holding you back. Not that they're inferior people, but that they're scared. They don't want to see you do better than they do. So they put their own limits on you. They will say things like, be realistic, or you don't want to get your hopes up, or can't you just be content with what you have? And if you don't pay attention, you will accept that fear as wisdom. It's not wisdom, it's limitation. You owe it to yourself to be mindful of your circle. That doesn't necessarily mean eliminating everyone around you. It does mean being boundaries conscious. It means determining who receives your time, your energy, and your influence. It means investing more time with people who motivate you, challenge you, and call you out when you're off track. It means looking for mentors, coaches, or peers who live on the level that you want to live on and allowing their mentality to permeate you. in any area of life, health, wealth, relationships, attitude. To improve faster, surround yourself with individuals who already do. To become healthy, be around people who make health a norm. To become wealthy, learn from people who created it. To become more spiritual or emotionally further along, be around people who live on a higher level on purpose. Success leaves a trail. Being around the right people enables you to learn more quickly from them. Here's the marvelous part. You don't have to walk this path by yourself. You're not wired that way. Individual development starts on the inside, but long-term development happens around other individuals. The right people will keep your vision in front of you when you've forgotten it yourself. They will encourage you onward when you want to quit. They will encourage you onward when you're considering playing it safe. And when you put yourself around individuals like that, you become an elevator for other individuals too. So here's your assignment: audit your circle. Get real with yourself about who in your circle actually lifts you up and who's keeping you stuck. And then make a choice to hang out more with the lifters. Find them, seek them out, nourish those relationships intentionally. Because here's the truth: you can't soar on eagle's wings if you keep running around with chickens. And as soon as you make a commitment that you're going to surround yourself with people that lift you up more, your entire direction shifts until this moment we've discussed: letting go, upping the standards, embracing discomfort, being around the kind of people that you need to surround yourself with. Here's where it all culminates. You need to own your vision and your identity. Because if you don't yet know who you're growing up to be, if you don't yet know where you're going, then you're going to get pulled back towards who you've been. And here's the truth: greatest force in human personality is the need to remain consistent with the way that we identify ourselves. And that's why identity is destiny. Consider this: if an individual perceives that they are a smoker, many times they resolve to stop smoking. They will inevitably revert back to cigarettes. If an individual perceives that they are bad with money, they will continue to self-submerge their bank account. If an individual perceives that they are not worthy of love, they will continue to accept less than they deserve. Words we apply to ourselves, consciously or unintentionally, become the unconscious script that governs our lives. But here's the great news: you can rewrite that script. You can herald a new identity that bolsters your vision. And when your identity and vision converge, you become unstoppable, because it's no longer a question of willpower. It's a question of being. First is vision. What do you truly want out of your life? Not what you can do, what your family thinks you can do, not what the media thinks you can do, being realistic, but what your spirit truly wants. Get a sense by closing your eyes and seeing yourself 5 years down the road. Who are you? How do you walk into a room? What energy do you carry? What are you creating, contributing to, experiencing? See it, live it. It's yours. That's your vision. Now, the second step here is identity. Instead of saying, someday I want to be that type of person, you own it now. You get up saying, I'm that kind of person. You live as if it were true, because your mind can't perceive clearly between something vividly constructed or something real. Just do what you say you're going to do. If you keep repeating to yourself over and over again, I'm disciplined, strong, I'm worthy, I'm a leader, and you back it up with consistent action, then your identity shifts. And once your identity shifts, so do your outcomes. That's why these things called affirmations, visualizations, and rituals are no fluff. Rather, they're devices that can be used to reprogram your mind towards your highest self. Each day you practice your vision and become the identity that currently possesses that success you want. It no longer becomes a dream, but a reality that stares back at you in the mirror. You no longer pursue success. Instead, success attracts you, since your actions more than make up for your beliefs. But here's the hidden truth: you must protect that identity. Others will try to impose a definition on you based on who you've been instead of who you're moving towards. They will tell you things like, you're the shy one, or you've never been proficient in that, or you're not the type who, that's theirs, not yours. Boldly declare your identity and live towards it day by day, no matter what they have to say. And let me tell you something: when you own your identity and vision, things shift on the planet. Decisions become easy because you say this: as this consistent with who I'm becoming. Your habits become automatic because you're no longer challenging yourself. You're just being yourself. opportunities start knocking on the door because you're working on a more expansive frequency of certainty and clarity. So here's your task: make a decision today who you are. Not who you were yesterday, what other people perceive you as being, but who you're committing to being from this day on. Say it, write it, live it. Because when you make your vision and identity your own declarations, you walk into the you that doesn't wish upon a star for greatness. Instead, you live it. And that, friend, is where transformation begins. Great. Now let's put it all together with the final key point. Since you want it with sub-points or layered emphasis, I'll flesh out point 11, take massive, imperfect action as a complete flowing 600-word segment that naturally becomes a Tony Robbins keynote speech. Parcel it out into smaller waves of emphasis for succinctness and punch. You can envision it, you can lift the bar, you can surround yourself with A players and adopt a bold new identity. Yet no one will change until you do something about it. Because the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be is constructed on action and not tidy, refined, someday action. It's constructed on enormous, imperfect action, this instant. The reality far too many people hesitate until they do something. They wait until they can be sure they're ready, until they can say they're sure they've got the answers, until they can cover every eventuality. Newsflash, you'll wait an eternity. Why? Because no one will ever give you perfection. The planets will never come together just so. You're not ready until you do something. You're ready because you've actually done something. So let's narrow that down to 3 things that will make you free. Firsty produces clarity rather than thought. You don't learn your way by sitting back and breaking down every event that could potentially play out. You learn it by moving, by experimenting, by acting. Consider when you learn how to drive, the first thing that doesn't cross your mind is waiting until you've got every rule committed to memory before getting behind the wheel. You hop in the car, you make adjustments, you mess up, and you learn by experience. Life is no different. The instant you begin moving, feedback arrives on the scene. Feedback defines you as a being who will perfectly know what to do next. Second better than perfection is progress. Perfection is the dream killer, because perfection is merely fear in pretentious garb. Tell yourself, ooh, it's got to be perfect. But what you're really saying is, I don't want to be judged. I don't want to fail. I don't want to be a fool. Here's the thing: you will be judged. You will fail. You will be a fool sometimes. That's part of the process. The distinguishing factor between individuals who make it where they're trying to go versus individuals who get stuck. Here it is. People who make it do the dirty work. They get in the room. They make the shot. They edit as they go. Remember, this is better than perfect, because done will get you where you need to go, and perfect will keep you where you don't need to be. Third, your greatest ally is momentum. When you begin something by taking action, energy becomes compounded. Opportunities multiply. Confidence builds up. Momentum is compound interest on action. The more action you take, the more powerful your results get over the longer term. Momentum doesn't show up for sit-around types. It favors the fearless ones who leap headfirst when they're scared. And when you've got momentum on your team, you can do anything. Think of the Wright brothers. They didn't wait until they had some kind of genius design for an aircraft before they attempted flight. They built, they prototyped, they crashed, they rebuilt, and then they soared. Think of every single entrepreneur, every leader, every innovator that you can respect. They didn't make it by virtue of hitting it exactly right on one shot. They made it because they didn't stop moving. So I need to ask you this: what do you fear doing? What's that project you swear you will do someday? Because someday is not a calendar date. Only now is. Only now is real. Here's the truth. A year from now, you will wish you started now. Hesitation time's over. Excuses are over. Wait time's over. You've got the vision. You've got the identity. You've got the tools. It's now that you do the one thing that distinguishes the achievers from the dreamers. Take mass action that's imperfect. Don't get your toe wet. Jump in. Make the call. Start the project. Have the discussion. The first page, take the first step, and then another, and then another. Because when you get moving, life will keep up with you. And if you fall, good, that means you're in the arena. You're stretching. That means you're playing the game of existence on a level you're meant to play on. Remember, failure's not the opposite of success. It's the precursor. So leap, build as you leap. The net will arrive beneath you. And remember this, you don't need to be great in order to do great things. You just need to be willing to get started with courage, with commitment, with a willingness not to give up. Since greatness doesn't wait for people, it happens for people who initiate action.